Besides Canada, it has been a long time since I've been outside the United States. Since it is my last year in my 20s, I want to go on a big trip, preferably overseas. So when a friend suggested going to Europe this summer, I knew I had to go. In our month-long trip, we covered 40 cities/towns across 7 countries. This was our first week. We landed in Frankfurt, and due to the time difference and jet lag, we didn't do much on our first day. Since it was Sunday, most things were closed anyway. We ended up walking around Frankfurt to do some light sightseeing and then headed over to Liechtenstein and Kaiserslautern, aka K-Town, to walk around some more and then grab dinner before heading back to our friends with whom we were staying with while in Germany. The next day, our plan was to visit the Black Forest. There's a stretch called the Black Forest High Road, which spans over 60 kilometers and is known as the most beautiful tourist route of the Black Forest. Our first stop was the town of Baden-Baden. Where we were from, we only have farmers market on Saturdays, so seeing it during the weekdays was new. So we checked out the town and then grabbed some Black Forest cake, felt very fitting for this occasion, before we continued on our trip. Next stop was Lake Mumise. We did some shopping in their souvenir shops and then took a walk around the lake. It was a beautiful day. You can see some people riding swan boats on the lake, swimming, walking, or enjoying a drink by the lake. After a while, instead of continuing on the Black Forest High Road, we decided to take a detour and head over to Strasbourg, France, which is about an hour away. Strasbourg is a beautiful town. There are so many little shops and restaurants everywhere. After we got tired from sightseeing, we grabbed some food from a bakery and found a spot by the river to enjoy. We people watched for a bit before I wanted to get some dessert. I wandered off to find some dessert and I was awestruck by what I found when I turned onto the street of the gelato shop. I was not expecting to see the Strasbourg Cathedral. I knew cathedrals were huge, but I was not expecting the sheer size of this one. Once I got my gelato, I sat and admired the beautiful architecture of the cathedral until my friends caught up with me. For the next 2 days, we visited the towns of Kokam and Heidelberg. We mainly walked around town, did some shopping, and eating. I love seeing all the architecture. When I think of European towns, this is what I always thought of. Also, since both towns have castles, I had to go see them up close. It was definitely a hike, but the view from the top was totally worth it. Luxembourg was one of those countries that never crossed my mind of visiting. However, since it was fairly close to where we stayed in Germany, we figured might as well check it out. Turns out Luxembourg is one of the 4 quote-unquote capitals of the European Union, with the others being Frankfurt, Strasbourg, and Brussels. Unbeknownst to us, we ended up visiting all 4 throughout our stay. It was a fairly cloudy day in Luxembourg, so we didn't do much. We did check out the Block Casemate, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It comprised of underground tunnels and galleries and was used as bomb shelters during World War II. We continued to wander around the city until it started raining, which then we ended up grabbing lunch at Rotisserie Ardennes. Turns out this restaurant can be found on the Michelin Guide. The staff was very welcoming, the presentation and taste of the food was amazing. Since it continued to rain, we decided to cut the trip short and head back to Germany. As our first week in Europe is coming to a close, we spent the weekend in Paris, France. The start to our Paris trip was way less than ideal because it was thunderstorming and our high-speed train got canceled since the lightning knocked out the power on our track. We were delayed 2 hours before the next train came. By the time we arrived in Paris, it was cloudy, but at least it wasn't raining. Did some sightseeing and came across the Notre Dame, which was under construction from the 2019 fire. Stopped by Shakespeare & Company to pick up a book and tote bag. Grabbed a bite to eat or continue exploring the city. The next day was a beautiful day. The sun was out and it wasn't too hot. Turned out to be a good thing considering how much walking we did. When people think of Paris, one of the first things that comes to mind is the Eiffel Tower. Of course, we had to see this iconic structure. Along the way, we passed by some beautifully decorated bridges and buildings. After spending some time at the Eiffel Tower, we made our way over to the Arc de Triomphe, another iconic structure. From there, we walked along the Champs-Élysées until we reached the Louvre. Afterwards, we grabbed a sandwich to go and ate by the river. This has become a habit while we were in Europe, which this was a more common occurrence back home. One of the things I was most looking forward to in France was trying out all the patisseries. Everything looks so good. Have to try a little of everything. Usually I can't eat a lot of pastries because the ones in the States tend to be overly sweet. However, the French pastries and sweets that I got weren't overly sweet, so I ended up finishing a lot of them. Not sure if it was a good or bad thing. That pretty much concluded our first week in Europe. Lots of sun and a couple of days of rain, but overall the temperature was hot/warm. Little did we know we won't be seeing temperatures like that for the next week while in Switzerland.